You're listening to the Pens Nation radio show on thepensnation.com.
Beau Bennett out, Jason Megna in for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Bennett will be sidelined 2 weeks with a lower body injury. David Perron rumors across the National Hockey League. Pens in Toronto tonight, and it's Thanksgiving, so Matt Gatjka and I will tell you exactly what we're thankful for this hockey season. It's all on the Pens Nation radio show. Here with Matt Gatjka of City Champion Sports, or City of Champion Sports. I guess the of is kind of important there, especially if you're looking for the URL. You can find him at Mike Gatjka on Twitter. And Matt, that's not the most common name, so how exactly do you spell that?
Yeah, sure. The always scintillating spelling on the radio, but it's Gajtka. It's a Polish name and doesn't really look that Polish, actually, so maybe I should look into exactly where it comes from, but that's what I've been told growing up, at least.
Yeah, well, the Polish names always fit in very well here in the city of Pittsburgh, so there are probably plenty of people who are just like, oh, yeah, Gatjka, that's that. I know that. That's not a problem at all. You also do a lot of media work for Robert Morris Athletics now, so you're very involved with the hockey team.
Yeah, that's more of my full-time gig now, City of Champions. I've had to slow down a bit as far as producing content there, but still doing the podcasts and the articles and the occasional video there on cityofchampionsports.com. But yeah, for RMU, really exciting to be part of the men's hockey program, really, and working with Coach Derek Schooley and the guys, and they're off to their best start ever in 11 seasons of D1 hockey down on the island. So I'll take a small bit of credit for that, I guess, as we head into the Thanksgiving break.
Now, last that I saw that I was able to pay attention at all, they were actually ranked. Yeah, are they still ranked?
They were number 17, number 18, and number 20 for 3 consecutive weeks. They actually dropped one spot out of the top 20 by USCHO.com, which is like the definitive national poll for college hockey for your listeners who don't quite know all about it. And there are a lot of people still trying to, I think, get into college hockey in this area as the Colonials have been rising year by year. But yeah, they were ranked for 3 straight weeks. That was an all-time program best. One spot out of it, but not something you want to be concerned about too much. It is nice to have when it's there, and we hope to get back into it soon.
College hockey is something that is growing, not just in the city of Pittsburgh, but across the country. Now we're really seeing a bigger emphasis being placed on it, and it's good to see also leagues like the USHL, and I do work with the Youngstown Phantoms, but it's good for them too because you can go up to the CHL and play in Canada, but once you do that, your college eligibility is nil. You're done. I don't know that everybody realizes that, so it's a good draw for the top Tier 1 junior team or league in the United States, in the USHL. And we're starting to see a lot more players who are making that jump or that leap there. Jack Eichel is obviously kind of the face of it all right now, playing for Boston. He'll probably only play there for 1 year, but still, that's it's good to have a poster boy for college hockey too. And we see in Arizona, they're starting to open up, and there's a Division I team opening out there, which is way off the uncharted waters for NCAA hockey anyway. As far as rankings go, kind of everybody knows NCAA football, and for the first 3, 4, 5 weeks, the rankings don't matter. Who even bothers paying attention to them? Is there a spot or a time on the calendar where the rankings start to mean something for college hockey?
Well, I think once you get past the new year and everyone is into the heavy portion of their conference schedule, for example, Robert Morris and Atlantic Hockey, the Atlantic Hockey Conference, you may see that thrown around in RMU hockey coverage. But that's really underway already for RMU. But after the Three Rivers Classic at Consol Energy Center over the holiday break, and then the 2-game series we have, including an outdoor game in Toledo, but that one is with Bowling Green. Bowling Green comes in, and then after that, it's all conference play following the I guess it'd be the 4th of January. So yeah, once you get to that point, the rankings take a little bit more of an importance, but they're really not factored in that much compared with some of the other metrics that are used, and you can find all those at uscho.com. I'm still learning about it myself, frankly, so it's been an education process. But there's something called the pairwise rankings that you may have heard about last year when Robert Morris was looking to get into the tournament as an at-large team. Actually, 2 years ago was the year they were hoping to get an at-large bid into the NCAA tournament, which has 16 teams. So the pairwise rankings is where you want to look. That's more of like a half computerized, half human ranking system. And right now, Robert Morris is around, I think, 23 or 24. So strength of schedule has held the Colonials back so far. So you're hoping that some of these teams in the conference with them can continue to perform well out of conference and boost that up a little bit. But as it stands right now, the clearest path for Robert Morris, like it was last year, to get to the postseason is to win the whole thing in Atlantic hockey. So that's the goal, and that'll always be the goal as long as they're in this conference.
Wow. You mentioned the outdoor game, and I Googled it. I looked it up because I wasn't sure. I didn't know that was happening, and I wasn't sure where it was going to be. But the artist renderings here look pretty darn cool. Is this where the Mud Hens play? The Toledo Mud Hens? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, the AAA affiliate of the Detroit Tigers. Yeah, it's going to be at Fifth Third Field up there in Toledo, and yeah, we're all really looking forward to it. It's a huge event. It's really, it's tough to look too far forward though, because as I mentioned, you have the Three Rivers Classic down at Consol for the 3rd straight year, and we're excited to be hosting that along with the Penguins. You've got Colgate coming in, which is a nationally ranked opponent. You have Western Michigan, who has received votes all year in the prominent polls. Same with Penn State, who we will play in the opening day, as we traditionally do in that tournament. And then just, 4 or 5 days later, you turn around and you're playing the first outdoor game in program history out in Northwest Ohio. So it's a lot to be crammed into 1 week. And as the PR person for the team, I'm trying to figure out a way to I guess, separate and promote both. But for us, still the bigger deal is down at the Consol Energy Center. So that's our event, and maybe one day we'll have our own outdoor game. But for right now, we're happy to play the guests coming up on January the 3rd.
Was there anything the team's doing to prepare for the elements? Because we've seen it with the Penguins for 3 times now as they prepare for the Winter Classic in the Stadium Series, the outdoor practices, etc. Any chance we're going to see the team get out to, that rink at South Park or whatever the outdoor rink is out there?
Yeah, there are a few in the Pittsburgh area. There's one at North Park as well that I saw a few months back when I first got back into town, and we live kind of in that area in the North Hills, my wife and I. So we drove around and saw there's an outdoor rink there too. So there are a few in the area. I don't know if you're familiar at all with the Island Sports Center where the Colonials practice and play all their home games, but there's kind of like a pavilion rink, so to speak. It's an open air ice rink at the same time, not being exposed completely to the elements. So it's got a roof, but the sides are all open. So hockey al fresco, I guess you could call it. But that would be maybe a way to test, I suppose, some less than optimal conditions. I was actually just out there this morning skating some pickup hockey. And yeah, the ice isn't terrific at all times out there. So perhaps that's an opportunity as well to try out some techniques and make sure that you're ready for less than optimal ice conditions.
When you mentioned that you'd be playing Bowling Green, the reason I looked it up was to see what the venue was. And I was going to say, because if it's a Bowling Green, if you know anything about that campus, first of all, it's completely flat. It's 1% symmetrical. So if you fold the campus in half, it would sit on top of itself. And that football stadium is just one giant wind tunnel. So that's always something you hear about with these outdoor games, is how much of a factor the wind plays in it. But I don't know what it's like up in Toledo. But Bowling Green, that certainly would have presented an issue.
Okay. Yeah, no doubt. I've never been out there myself either. I've driven by Bowling Green, and you're right. It's completely flat. It's totally different from around here. So that could come into play for sure. Toledo is very different topographically from Pittsburgh. So it could come into play. And I'm sure as we get closer and closer to it, Ken, there will be some preparations and guys starting to think about what they need to do to play their best for that one.
Moving into Pittsburgh Penguins talk, Beau Bennett, it's announced today that he will miss 2 weeks due to lower body injury, which I don't think anyone's surprised about after watching the Bruins game and seeing the play where he was injured because it looked nasty. It was kind of a dirty play, and his knee kind of buckled up underneath him and being taken down. But he returned for the third period, so that was encouraging for Penguins fans. But announced today that there is going to be some additional time that he's going to miss. But the question does kind of pop up with Beau Bennett. What is the difference, and what's that line between being injury-prone and just flat-out unlucky?
It's a great question. I think it's almost semantics, Ken. You could really mean one thing and say another in this case very easily. But, I think injury-prone, no athlete wants to be known as that, but Beau Bennett is clearly in that territory right now. And I just written something on City of Champions about how I love this potential, and we tend to forget about Beau Bennett because he's seemingly always injured, and here we are again looking at another couple of weeks without him on the ice, and the Penguins will certainly be lesser for it. But I'm not sure Beau Bennett is necessarily brittle. He had that really rough wrist injury, and I was listening to an interview he did. Might have even been on the Penguins post-game show, might have been on 93.7 The Fan, something this past week, but he wasn't quite forthright on what exactly that wrist injury was last year that kept him out for a couple of months, if you'll remember. I'm not sure if it's related to that broken arm that he had in college at the University of Denver. So it's almost tough to keep track of all the things that he's gone through. And he's still only 22, so he's only been a pro for a couple of seasons here. But I think there is a reasonable, ability to ask the question and to have that be a valid question. Is this guy just not built for the physical rigors of the NHL? And looking back, just particularly with this injury, Ken, from the other night when he got hurt up in Boston, it didn't look like a terrible type of play. I think we've seen maybe guys like Sidney Crosby, guys built a little bit more thicker, more sturdy, take those types of hits to the lower body especially, and not suffer any kind of a sprain, which I'm assuming that's what this is, some kind of a knee sprain, judging by the timeline. You remember that Steve Downey, actually, strange figure four leg lock he put on Crosby back in Tampa a few years ago, and Sid didn't miss a game, didn't miss a shift from what I remember from that. So, yeah, I think some guys are just maybe built a little less sturdily, and that's the case for Beau Bennett. Maybe he has to adjust his game likewise. That
injury you're talking about in Denver was actually the opposite arm of the wrist, so they were unrelated. But you're right. The terms of that injury were kind of nebulous, and that was a little bit of a hallmark of Dan Bylsma because he was so reserved about disclosing any information about injuries, for better or for worse. But Mike Johnson's been a little bit more transparent, but he's also not, coming forward with medical x-rays or anything like that in press conferences. But yeah, we didn't know too much about it, so it's kind of difficult to say whether that was an injury that was that makes Beau Bennett brittle or whatever. But I guess let's talk about this kid too and what he's been doing on the ice before the injury, though, because I know you were really high on him. I'm really high on him because up to this point in this season, we've seen a lot of potential. We've known about his shot, his release, and his skating ability. But now I think this year, in the time that he's been healthy, we've seen a player who is really starting to put together a full game away from the puck. I don't think there's been a player better on this team at coming up behind a player and stick checking and taking the puck away in the little bit of time that we've seen Beau Bennett healthy. So he's starting to do a lot of little things away from the puck that are making a big difference in his game.
Yeah, no doubt. And that type of play you talk about where you lift the guy's stick from behind, that is certainly not something that a weak individual can pull off on an NHL athlete. So he's definitely a strong guy, just more wiry, I guess, than what we're used to from seeing from most hockey players. But what I like about him, Beau Bennett, he is definitely a different player than what we've seen come up through the Penguins system. And part of this is probably because a lot of the Penguins forwards that have come up recently are low draft picks or college free agents, etc.